Let's get jiggy with it. No, 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 no. Shoo!
Let's do it.
And action.
What's up, everyone? Mike Leighton, snowboard expert with Curated.com.
And I'm Everett Pelkey. We're here today at Powder Mountain, Utah.
And on today's episode of Head to Head, we are pitting the Ride Warpig against the new Yes Warca and the LibTech Orca. So we're putting these boards to the test in 3 categories: carving, freestyle, and freeride. So you can figure out which board is best for you. Just so you guys know, we are not sponsored by any brand, so all of these reviews are unbiased. Riding the Ride Warpig, as you can see, it is part of Ride Pig series. It's a unisex series, but it also tends to run a much wider platform, so you can ride a much shorter board. It actually features a rocker profile. So as a result, like normally you'd think rocker's a little bit more washed out, but with that wider profile, like once you get it on edge, it really holds a solid edge.
So the Orca, first time I've been on something like this when it comes to a really higher end directional, but with this, the shape, it had a little bit of rocker in the center and then it goes out to camber underfoot.
New for 2023, Yes introduced this board called the Warca. It's not a coincidence that there's an Orca sitting next to it and also a Warpig on the other side. Combine those, you have the Warca. What the Warca is, it's short, it's wide, it's actually true camber, whereas that's a hybrid camber and this is rocker. But it also features Yes's mid-bite, which is a narrower section in the middle of the board, which really helps with that engagement and that nimbleness, which is a feature that with the Orca's C2 camber, you get that with the rocker. You kind of also get that wavy edge line of the magnet traction. So carving, Everett, how'd you feel carving on these boards?
I mean, they all have a slightly different style of carving, which made it super fun. Like the Warpig, that one had a nice rocker using the initiate into the turn, so you can make big, wide open turns. Whereas the LibTech Orca, super nimble in the middle, you're able to twist that and get those sharp, really dramatic ones in there. And then this board finds a sweet spot in between the two to put the benefits of each of them to really make it just fun, hard carving board.
Yeah. So what I really felt with the Warpig is because it has more of a traditional side profile, it has a biradial side cut, but you know, as you're going into your turns, it's old reliable. You know what to expect every turn. What I found with the Orca is with that C2 in the middle, I would say in some of those more high speed carves, you have to be a bit more dynamic where you're starting more on your front foot, finishing on your back. It's kind of more of a flowy turn. So like on a higher edge angle, if you're someone that likes to hammer their turns, like the Warpig is gonna feel a lot more familiar than the Orca is. And then lastly, with the Warca, so the Warca with being true camber, it holds an edge like a true camber board, but it's still nimble because of that mid-bite in the waist width. So it's kind of like that blend in the middle. So my pick for carving is the Ride Warpig. It's the first board I rode this morning, but when conditions were hard, it just holds an edge in and out of your different turn radiuses. Like this is what I'm reaching for if I'm focusing on carve.
Yeah, and I'm right with you there, Mike. That thing was super fun to lay in trenches as you're going, and it was reliable through everything. So definitely, I'm going with the Ride Warpig as well. As much as I thought this was gonna take it a little bit more, the LibTech Orca does have that magnet traction to help. The Ride Warpig knows exactly what it's doing when it comes to carving.
So for the category of freestyle, all these boards are really fun. They're definitely really playful. You can really press out the Orca, which is a lot of fun. This you can butter around. It has a fair amount of pop in it, but I really think the Warpig with the more traditional shape, you can kind of lock in. You can, you know, dial in where you are. You're buttering around. There's no variability. It's reliable. All 3 of these boards are not necessarily freestyle boards. They're capable of spinning, landing things. You know, landing stuff in choppy conditions is really easy across the board. They're all really stable. How did you feel?
I liked that the Ride Warpig has that rocker feature to it, and it shows that makes it more of a freestyle oriented board. I really felt comfortable like getting into butters, into presses, but even initiating spins off just side hits. I could see why you could even take that into the park. The most surprising thing out of all of this though was the Warca. That thing had snapped. That thing had popped. Like you were getting so much air off of it that I did not even see coming. Like that was super cool.
Well, I think that has to do with being a campered snowboard is you get that extra snap. I agree. That was really fun from a pop perspective. This was really fun. The only one I would say like kind of felt like it was lacking in pop was the Orca. The Warca was close in all the categories, but for freestyle, I have to go with kind of like the reliable snap and familiarity of the Warpig for me.
So my pick for freestyle is the Ride Warpig. Next, we're going to the category of free ride through all these boards. We really put them through the paces. Having variable conditions made it a great day to really push them and see what they could and couldn't do, which really there's not many they couldn't do, which made this super fun. This was super nice for the free ride ability of having that nimble twist right in the middle. You could really tight trees, bumps, and everything like that. Whereas the Ride Warpig was able to, you know, it's going to be rocker. It's going to be a little more dramatic, take your time, a little more flowy on that. What do you think of these boards?
From a free ride perspective, the Warpig, you know, if you're pointing it through stuff and you're in a lot of soft snow, the Warpig is great. The one part that I was hoping for a bit more was when we got into more choppy, harder snow, because of that more traditional shape, you kind of got locked up and there was a lot of chatter underfoot and it kind of became hard to control. The Warca with the mid bite, it's kind of the blend of both.
Yeah.
So there was a little bit of that chatter because of that true camber profile, but with that mid bite, it made it more nimble edge to edge. So you could kind of compensate a little bit better. But honestly, what kind of blew me away was the Orca. That ability to shift fore and aft depending on the conditions and really still be able to control your board. The magnet traction, as much as I'm not always a fan of magnet traction in more open and a clean face, having those extra contact points. So think of it like a bread knife. You know, like when you're cutting your bread knife, you're just trying to get through the bread. But like with the steak knife, which would be more like this, you need a clean surface to really, you know, use it.
Yep.
So with the magnet traction, with that serrated edge, you just have more contact points. And then with that rocker in the middle and that C2 profile, it just made it really nimble and you were always in control. So like when I was following you originally on the Orca, I was like, oh, this is a breeze. There was no chop in softer snow, that ability where it just wants to kind of sit back. You're going to be floating all day.
Yeah, and that's why I liked this one right here. The LibTech Orca was really great, even though it felt so light underfoot. It was super damp whenever hitting any uneven terrain. That felt super cool on this right here, being able to just handle through that very well. So for the free ride category, my decision, I'm going with the LibTech Orca. This is one, there's a reason Travis Rice was riding this in the bigger, steeper lines. It felt like it wants to be in the Alaska backcountry. This thing is the steeper you go, the more it wants to go faster, and you just only feel more and more in control. Mike, what do you think?
I'm going to agree with you. It was stable, it ate up the chop, and that ability to kind of change, you know, where you're riding is hugely important, especially in free ride. So we didn't pick the Warca in any individual category, but for me, it didn't stand out in any single category. It was a very close second, you know, where a lot of it was very close in all categories, which is, you know, what it's designed to be. It's the blend of both boards. Overall, for me, this is the board that if I'm gonna reach for something that can do a bit of everything, you know, if we're getting a ton of fresh snow and I'm riding some steep lines, you know, in Alaska, I might be reaching for the Orca. And if I'm like ripping some groomers and like, you know, playing around a bit, or, you know, conditions are harder, I might reach for the Warpig. But if I'm looking for something that I could ride day in, day out and have a blast on it, my overall pick is the Warca, because it really does blend all the good characteristics of these two boards and makes it its own. You know, it's camber, it's got the mid bite, it's a twin, it's got a wide platform, it has that little bit of swallow in the tail and a little bit in the nose here, so it's gonna float, switch, and regular. It really can do it all.
So my final decision on all three of these boards, my favorite out of all three, I'm gonna go with the Ride Warpig. It suits my needs of having that playful freestyle feel that I could totally go hit the big line in the park and feel right at home. But if it's gonna start dumping later in the day, I can still go ride out and get the best powder days of my life.
I'm gonna disagree with you. I'm taking this.
It's not coming back.
So as you can see, we had very different opinions on 3 different snowboards. And We know that every snowboard works differently for every rider and in different conditions. So hit the link in the description and either talk to me or Everett or another one of our experts at Curated so we can figure out what the best snowboard is for you.
And if you want to see more reviews like this triple head-to-head here, hit the subscribe button to see more videos from Curated. And if you have any suggestions on what you want to see next, type in the comments below of what you would like to see. Hello! Yeah! 1, 2.